Welcome, everyone. We are so excited to present to you our co-creative process today, where myself, Julia Ballas from galacticastrology.com, is meeting with Denise Dryden from denisdryden.com to talk about the new energy children. And I love the term, Denise. I saw it on your website. We have so many different terms coined now in terms of identifying several different generations of this kind of new age children. And I just love how you put it into that beautiful umbrella of the new energy children. But in particular, we want to focus today on the diamond children generation that started incarnating on Earth in the year 2008 and onwards. And we'll probably touch on as well rainbow kids, the generation before diamond, and prior to them, crystal, and prior to crystal, indigo. But the main focus is on diamond today. And I would love to talk about some of the astrological influences on the collective consciousness of this generation, how it shapes who they are, and how it manifests in their life as challenges, but also immense gifts and qualities, and what might be their collective soul mission in terms of helping to upgrade the Earth collective towards a better, brighter future. And then after I present that, I would love to ask Denise about some of her experiences with working with parents of these children, listening to their stories, and maybe how it matches what we see in astrology. So I think it can be quite interesting conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today, Denise.
Oh, Julia, this is going to be a great conversation. You are so good at astrology, and I've been historically putting educational profiles and psychology profiles and parenting skills together and going, okay, so if you have this kind of kid, it makes sense that you're going to focus on this. So I think between the two of us, we're going to weave together a very good support system for especially these younger kids.
Yes, and no better person really to join me today as you, Denise. You've recently launched your latest book, The Indigo Assignment, right? And you're working, yeah, show us.
Right here. Just it's the first of 4. So I'm going to write a book on each one of these energies. And I did write an online class in 2015, and it just was sealed flat, like it wasn't able to unlock, but it had all of my information in it. And so now going back, 7 years later and sort of turning each section into a full book has been phenomenal. So I'm just diving in after this interview, actually, into creating the crystal book. So that's the next book to come.
It's evolving organically. So amazing to see. So diamond generation, diamond kids. It is believed that they started, as I mentioned, in 2008. They started coming in 2008. And isn't that interesting that Pluto shifted sign in 2008 from into Capricorn? So Pluto's transit through 12 zodiac signs is usually between 23 to 25 years. So, and Pluto is an external planet with this very slow transit that is believed to be a powerful influencer of deep, profound transformation. So whatever zodiac sign it is going through, the area of our human life experience is going to go through massive transformation. And you either evolve in that particular life area that is connected to that zodiac sign, or you die. It's literally that intense, evolve or die. And with that evolution, if you surrender to that and you allow for profound changes to occur in your life, where it propels you towards your personal evolution, the rewards are immense. So, and the evolution of Pluto's pushing us is going towards greater harmony with universal laws, with Earth. Pluto will not allow for service to self or me, myself, and I, disregarding how my actions affect the others. It will not allow that. So it is really pushing us to become better humans. So with this generation of diamond kids, when they're born into Pluto shifting into Capricorn, they're being born into society that is going through profound changes in everything to do with Capricorn, meaning structure, everything that is that has some sort of control over something, big corporations, the government, and anyone and anything that is in charge of something and is focused on goals and future achievement, and really divine masculine or masculine principles being manifest in physical reality. So these children are, as they grow, they will be quite significantly affected by society structure that is completely changing, and actually witnessing parents, siblings, and people in their immediate environment who are struggling with that change. Many people don't want things to change, and they are experiencing a lot of inner turmoil, and many go to alcohol or drugs or all kinds of unstable behavior that these little children are witnessing. So I believe how this will affect them in a long run is to feel and have this strong desire to make sure that power will not be misused and abused when they become adults. They will feel this deep inner sense and kind of their mission for it to make sure that that will not repeat whatever they've witnessed in their childhood. And another huge factor in their psyche is Neptune, for their generation, shifted to Pisces, which makes them deeply connected to unity consciousness, source consciousness, and being deeply compassionate. So it's such a powerful combination of divine wisdom, compassion, and sense of taking responsibility and leadership in a way that is benefiting all rather than just themselves. So with that Neptune in Pisces also, this is also giving them this immense wisdom that is oftentimes taking their parents aback, like, wow, where did that just come from? Psychic abilities, prophetic dreams, like the stuff that they can experience. It's almost like they live here and there at the same time, and they can really tune into things that come from the quantum field. And it can be quite extraordinary to witness that as a parent. And then with that Pluto in Capricorn, another trait it's giving them is to be quite stubborn in their childhood, because they feel they know better, and they feel like they are not here to learn from the old structure that is on Earth. They know somehow on a soul level that that is an old structure, and they are here to build a new structure. So they are kind of rejecting it and being quite stubborn about not listening to their parents' advice, because this is the old Earth, old generation. Do not teach me, right? Would you like to comment on all that?
Oh my gosh, I've just been writing, all of these key words that you've been hitting as we go along. It dawned on me that Capricorn is also, isn't it? It's a cardinal sign, so it's leadership.
Yes.
So it's sort of like, I don't think you understand. I'm here to pick this up and go forward. I'm not here to nurture or to start. I'm here to lead. And so when you take that sort of immense wisdom that comes with the Neptune placement, it's also in the Chiron wound, it's going to be both Pisces and Aries. And so it's very interesting, which is, the first generations are really holding, those early ones born within the Pisces are holding sort of that sense of the bigger purpose. And then they go right straight into I am, which is, who am I going to be as I'm building this new future? So to me, it feels like if we go to the Terminator movie and we start with the fact that Sarah, whatever her last name was, she was going to birth this baby that was going to change the world. And it was like, what do we do if we really actually realize that those of us who birthed children from 2008 forward within that population, not every one of them by all means, but within are these sprinklings of these masterful, to a degree, messiahs, each of them with information to take us forward, and very little patience for the environment of trying to trying to deal with what mom and dad, are used to, and how they're in how they have built their life, that conditioning, that patterning, that structure. You're right. They're just, that Neptune's going to go, I didn't come here to learn that. I actually am here to teach you how to put that down so that we could go forward.
Mm-hmm.
One thing is where would telepathic skills come in? Would that be through the Neptune?
Neptune in Pisces.
Yeah.
Yes. And so this influence is not only on children that have this in their natal chart that they were born, but also on the entire collective. Us now living through Neptune in Pisces is one of the main influencers, making even adults of any age, shape and form, to become more telepathic, more psychic, more in tune with their own divine guidance, with their higher selves, remembering past lives, having profound dreams. This is Neptune and Pisces.
Yeah, and that makes sense, because that was one of the key elements that I was able to bring in about the diamonds, is that their language skills are so sophisticated that when we try to explain something to them, or they can even talk to us in our heads. So learning how that telepathic information comes in is important. Like the example what I would use is that my information comes in pictures. I'm a visual. It comes in pictures and scenes and stories and movies that I've just seen, and I can piece them together and see the story. And I have a granddaughter that puts pictures in my head all the time. And I'm
amazing.
like, oh, very
know what you mean.
And I sat down with her when she was, I'm going to say 7 or 8 months, and she was scooching, but she didn't want to crawl, and she hadn't learned how to walk yet. And I picked her up and took her to the park and sat her down. We were just sitting on a blanket, and she was just watching the kids. And I had to do this, wouldn't look at her. And I said, I would like to ask permission. And I did this telepathically, to give you some information. And she said, yes. And then I started to talk, and I said, within this human population, our eye-hand coordination, our ability to be lithe and to move and to put things together in the 3D is dependent on our ability to crawl. So the more you crawl, the longer you crawl, the more you will actually understand the cause and effect of the human body. And then I sort of got quiet, and I telepathically said, was that enough? And she said, yes. So I took her back to her mom's house and put her down at one side of the room, by her toys. And I was talking to her mom across the kitchen, and her mom's like, so what did you guys do today? I said, oh, we just went to the park. We had a conversation about crawling. And that baby got up on her hands and knees, and she was really, really wobbly, and she locked eyes with me, and she would not let go. And she lifted one hand up, and she smacked it down, like, and then moved on that one, and literally crawled across the room towards us. And her mom's like, what did you do? And I said, we had a conversation about coordination. And that was that. And I could see that intuitive, that putting everything together, but also that stubbornness, like, okay, I get it. I'm going to do this. And witnessing that from a personal one-on-one scenario was fabulous. And that's sort of what these children are capable of doing at all times, is we have to look at them like we're talking to a master.
Wow, what an incredible story as an example of how to approach these kids. What year is she born in? Was she born in?
She was born in 2020.
Okay, incredible.
She's really young still. She's only 20 months old.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to mention that Neptune moved into Pisces in 2012. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's when it happened. Good. Okay. Keep going. This is good information.
So I want to mention that the kids just before 2008, their Pluto was in Sagittarius. And so they would be now in their late teens, right? So having Pluto in Sagittarius is all about kind of, experiencing, first of all, the spiritual revolution. Didn't we witness religions structures kind of have changing, and everything that comes with that. And some of these keys, when I was looking at the fixed stars alignments or the alignments of celestial bodies that are outside of our solar system, just before we started receiving Neptune in Pisces newborns, the children that were born just before them were actually hitting Galactic Center through Pluto in Sagittarius. So it's as if they're coming directly from source to create that change. So Pluto in Sagittarius was from 1995 to 2008. So these children are now 27 years old to 14 years old, or the other way around, if you're watching in 2022. But it's the last envoy of kids being born just before 2008, kids born around 2007, they 6, 5, they had Galactic Center conjuncting their Pluto.
That makes so much sense, because I've never understood, there's this indigo, which was this massive placement of a frequency to sort of start tipping a direction. And then once they were in place, that the crystals were brought in, and the crystals started in 89. However, if you really look at the fact that they started to align with this Pluto Galactic Center, but the fact that it's Sagittarius is fascinating to me, because I've always called them the liberators, because they, whether it was that they're vibrationally, they're like water. And so their sound and their ability to hear is different. Their ability to organize, like there's not a linear organization of executive functioning skills. They don't do any of that. None of them. They don't align to the things that are physical in this earth. They are vibrational, and they have the cellular technology of vibration. So they tip the whole education system. First it was like they put them in preschool, and these preschool teachers were like, is there something wrong with them? They're not responding the way the kids before have. Then they go into school, and at least here in the States, what I've seen straight across the board is they were tested for nonverbal communication skills, auditory processing. They were looking at, do they have math skills? Do they have this? And they're super highly intelligent. And think of Sagittarius. They are teachers. They are academics. They are travelers. They love to work within the belief system. So they're liberating the belief systems in every single section that they're going through. So if you think of, let's just round it up to 90. So the math is really easy, right? For 32 years, we've had, these sequential changes in institutions, parenting, religion. They're not going to study and memorize. They're not going to perform on standardized tests the same way. They're not going to, and they're vibrational. And then I'm jumping so fast. There's so much information here. The Sagittarius makes sense. And then when we go to 2002 to 2007, I never understood why there was just this very select group of kids that came in for 5 years, and their freedom. They hold the Arcturian sort of codes of light. They really actually don't do anything other than hold, what I want to say, break apart the dualistic thinking and hold both love and light and balance at the same time. So that's all they know how to do. And so for 5 years, think of the Galactic Center, think of Sagittarius, think of, well, you can believe this or you can believe this. Each perspective is correct based on how you track it. There's no right answer. And so these rainbows came in and said, do you want to call me a third grader? I don't think so. I'm actually very much like a fifth grader in this area and very much like a kindergartner in this area. And the parents are like, yeah, but you're third grade. And they're like, no, I'm not. Well, I'm a boy. No, I'm really not. I want to grow my hair long, and I want to wear different colors. I'm not going to just be in jeans every day like boys are, or vice versa. And it had nothing to do with transgender or confusion. What it was is that they would not be defined by anything. And so like this just makes so much more sense to me.
So what you were touching on there, that generation, from 1998 to 2012, their Neptune was in Aquarius, not Neptune in Pisces. So Neptune in Aquarius is about all that expansion and not confining to the current structure, but experiencing greater connectivity. And they're also the generation that is affected by technology. They're just so technologically savvy, and they use technology to connect with the whole world. But something that you hit the nail on, so interesting that you observed it experientially. There's a group of children that is actually only 3 years, so maybe 3 to 5 years, that are kind of the bridge between the two generations, one generation before them and one generation after them. So between 2008 and 2011, there is a group of newborn children who had Neptune in Aquarius and Pluto in Capricorn. The generation before them had Neptune in Aquarius also, but Pluto in Sagittarius. And then the one after them has Pluto in Capricorn, and then Neptune in Pisces. So like they're connected with one, they're connecting with one, with the previous one and the future one. So they are the slight distinction about them. So having Neptune in Aquarius and Pluto in Capricorn is exactly those examples that you've just been experiencing there, mentioning there. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So fascinating.
These dates were given to me on a channeled piece, and I've been sort of holding them, knowing at all times that there may be information that moves them around a bit, because this was all information that was given to me in 2015. Late 14, almost all of 15 was, I was just on it all the time. So give me a time frame, give me a purpose, give me, an assignment, tell me why they're here, tell me what they're here to do. And so that, because I've also been told constantly by this new channel of mine, Lucas, that they're not the rainbows, they're the rainbow bridges, that they are actually bridges.
And that makes so much sense. Astrologically as well, they're the bridges between the two, the one before and the one after. Oh my goodness, I love how we can arrive from different angles to the same core principle of this profound soul mission on Earth.
Well, and are they, because with the term that came out for that very small, succinct group is that they're geometrons. They can hold these geometric complexities on such a level. Now, the fun part was that they were literally embedded into family systems in the main leadership communities around the world. So you think of Los Angeles, you think of New York City, you think of Washington, D.C., you think of London, you think of, keep going through all of the locations, and they came into families who are playing significant roles in leadership within those realms.
Well, do you know what? Their Neptune is opposing Regulus, one of the 4 royal stars, guardians of the 4 cardinal directions. So having Regulus opposition in opposition to their Neptune, that typically, from what I'm seeing, will have a significance in terms of their most ancient soul history. Like these would be very, very old souls, and they would have had most likely many lives in royalty or in significant social status positions. But because it is opposing their Neptune throughout their childhood, early years, teenage years, it's almost like they'll be denied to embody that royalty and powerful leadership. They first need to be the ordinary humans and deal with the stuff that 3D person that is ordinary is dealing with, so that as a result of that experience, when they embody their Regulus royalty link to divinity, to divine leadership, they will then be able to do it through compassion, through understanding what it is like to be mortal.
Well, and that makes sense. These rainbows hit the program business that the therapeutic programs just towards the tail end. Like the last 3 years I was in it, I was noticing that there is this beautiful child who the parents, the one best example I have are from Boston and are super highly educated, believe in education, believe in Ivy schools, you know, and they keep wanting to put this beautiful boy on a college track. Meanwhile, he's playing his own music and making recordings and selling, and has money in the bank that they don't even know that he has, because he knows how to do environmental, so like music that can stay and play for 2 to 3 hours and set
the Aquarius. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Aquarius, right? And they're like, no, that's not a business. You need to go to school. And he's looking at him and going, you think I'm going to go to school? And they're like, you have to go to school. And the main coaching that we did was, how do I pull out this school insistence on the parents? And then they still wanted to bargain. We'll let you have a year off as long as you contract with us now that you'll go to school in 1 year. And every single one of them, he would just go, yeah, no. Mm-mm. And he didn't take it personally, and he didn't get angry. He just kept saying, no, nice try. I'm still not going to do that. And he was just so beautifully respectful with his nose at all times. And his parents were the ones who were just having a hard time with it. And that was in 2000. Let's see. It was in 2018, 2019. So he would have been 16, 17 years old, which was exactly that track of like, you know, are we college bound? And he's like, no, we're not doing this.
That's them. Pluto, Capricorn, Neptune, and Aquarius.
Good. Wow. It's all laid out.
Yes. So I would encourage anyone listening here, if this is, intriguing you, look at your own Neptune and Pluto alignments, because our generations also were born into certain alignments. So if you want to just briefly touch on the indigos, right? So you mentioned starting coming in 1977.
In mass, you know, and again, these dates are in mass. It's where it's like the grand opening of the store. That doesn't mean that the store hasn't had some previous openings or some invitations beforehand. So anywhere between a year or two ahead of time, but in mass in 1977.
Yeah, so there are scouts coming in prior and after as well. So we would have had Neptune in Sagittarius, and Pluto in Libra, and then Pluto in Scorpio as well, and Neptune in Scorpio previously. So anyway, these again, we were born into experiencing society and large, going through transformation. If you look at Pluto going through Scorpio, anything to do with finances, sexuality, hidden secrets, stuff that weren't talked about, deep emotional experiences that suddenly are needing to be talked about. Anything that's taboo, real estate, property, all these kinds of things. So there was such transformation in those areas throughout the society. So as children and experiencing, witnessing kind of traumas related to that, as adults, we feel called to start healing that particular area. So sexuality, relationship with money, and everything else that I've mentioned, and build a society that has much healthier approach to all these, right?
It's beautiful that the indigos were embedded within the Gen X generation, and they came in with two. It was very interesting. They came in with two codes and rays associated with them that I haven't been able to adhere. Other codes are rays as strongly to the other groups. The blue ray, which is light and sound, which is this sophisticated ability to see the nuances in truth, either vibrationally or visually. So that makes them incredibly psychic.
So that could be Neptune in Sagittarius from 1970 to 1984.
Yep.
And again, connected as well at some point, some of them would hit the Galactic Center, Antares as well, which is incredibly complex mind that can comprehend so many things.
That makes sense. And then the other one is they came in holding the sapphire codes, and trying to find information on the sapphire codes is the best way I can do that is to keep going back to channeled pieces, which is that it holds the rightness, the truth, and the law of justice. And so it's going to say, if you've got a secret, that secret needs to be unveiled. If that secret is shaping the way that you govern, or the way that you lead, or the way you parent, or the way you interact in relationship, those secrets have to come to the surface. So the hidden truths since 1977 in straight across in all countries, in all relationships, in everything has been pushing open and open and open. And we're just like,
so that's Pluto in Scorpio.
And I can't do it anymore. And then the next one comes, right?
Yeah. So that's Pluto in Scorpio, revealing secrets and digging deep. And so they would have had their Neptune in Capricorn. So kind of experiencing our first time really taking deep, kind of soulful look at the leadership in our society, and making, when they become leaders, as they are now, their Neptune is influencing their leadership, which Neptune is like the higher octave of kind of divine intuition, divine wisdom, soul connection. So they make decisions aligned with higher universal laws, and it's very important to them.
Yes. And those universal laws aren't something that are negotiable. Just, I think what we can actually say is, for the first time on our planet Earth was a frequency that doesn't negotiate. It's either it's true and it vibrates and resonates and, it holds the coherence of truth, or it doesn't. There's no way around it. You can't lie around that.
I find it quite interesting how Neptune and Pluto touched on these zodiac signs at different times. So they both at some point go through Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius. So they kind of hit it at different points through different generations. But it seems like it's very important for us as a society to upgrade all these societal zones to make sure that this world is becoming a better place.
Well, and we really look at the quad sections of the astrology. The first is like, I'm in a human body. Who am I? What are my resources? And who can I lean on? And then, and each one we have, when we get to the fourth quadrant, that is, what is our role to play in the bigger picture of, and I'm going to say the Earth and the galaxy, because what we are going to start moving further towards is that, what if we're an intergalactic, not what if, we are an intergalactic partner, and our awareness of that has been blocked intentionally. So having all of these signs and all this growth coming up in that last quadrant, where it's like there's people, there's resources, there's information, there are tools out in the galactics we have to learn to bring in. That's when in that quadrant within where it's going to happen.
Yes.
So I love that all of this has been aligning with the placement of these energy children.
Quite amazing. I want to mention a few more kind of galactic connections. Especially the generation of kids that are between 14 years old to 27 years old, if you're watching in 2022, with their Pluto in Sagittarius. We have mentioned conjunctions to Galactic Center and Antares, which is another one of the 4 royal stars, but also to Alpha Centauri, conjunct to Alpha Centauri, if their Neptune was between 0 to 2.5 degrees of Sagittarius. And what that means is that they likely have insights and connection to the inner Earth realms, and to Atlantis, even to Lemuria. So there is a strong connection to these beings and to memories from that. So kind of bringing them back to full awareness, and using that wisdom and gifts and healing abilities, and working with crystals and sound and all these kinds of things. So the connection with Alpha Centauri. And if it was the very first kids coming in around 1995, who are now 27 years old, if they would have had early degrees of Sagittarius, so from 0 up to 2.5 degrees, they would have Pleiades opposing their Pluto. And the degrees of around 6 to 9 degrees of Sagittarius of Pluto, connection to Hades. And then in around 10 degrees of Sagittarius of their Pluto is connection to Aldebaran, which is another one of the 4 royal stars. So there could be actually a galactic soul history linked to these different star systems who have been involved with humanity for a very, very long time. And again, so when this is opposing their Pluto, it means that in their earlier years, they're not really fully integrating their galactic soul memories from these places. Yeah. They need to first experiencing from a human 3D perspective, learn all about it. And when they have certain transits, they'll become activated in remembering their connection to these significant places. So quite fascinating as well.
Well, what that brings up, I love that I'm hearing information I've never heard before, because then that visual collector starts to go, oh. Part of what I haven't understood about the crystals is that I always see them as those pods that were in that movie Cocoon. You know, they had comrades that were buried in pods 10,000 years ago at the ocean, and they came down to get them. And that these pods have this, yeah, they're going through life as children and going through life as you know, as we said, between 14 and 27, they've been going through the phases of life. Yet what I've continued to hear is that they're holding a technology inside of them that hasn't awakened yet or hasn't cracked open, and that there's some level of acceptance within the diamond that we as a collective have to meet the diamonds at a certain level, and these crystalline kids crack open with a technology that could be Lemurian, could be Atlantean, could be intergalactic, could be from the gift from the planets, that, you know, that when they're well established in leadership roles, they can start to implement what it is this technology is going to teach them. So all of the struggling, all of the misfit, you know, all of the diagnoses and everything that hasn't worked for both the millennial, the older indigo, but mostly or Gen X, but mostly the millennial and the crystal and into the rainbow, is now there's another secret that's going to come out around. And based on these locations of Alpha Centauri and Aldebaran, it makes sense.
Well, in terms of the crystal, especially if they had Neptune in Capricorn, at some point in around 20 degrees and a few others, there would be linked to Lyra, ancient Lyra, and actually conjunction to Lyra. So these, again, are very, very ancient soul memories of human DNA that has been present from Lyra on Earth in ancient Atlantis and Lemuria as well. So big time, yeah. So if anyone would like to explore this in their own charts, I offer free Galactic Astrology charts. You just put in your birth details when you go to my website, galacticastrology.com. So you can have a look which of these fixed stars or the Galactic Center, how they're hitting your natal planets. And then you can dive deeper by either taking one of my courses or just exploring a huge amount of free information available online.
I love your site. There's so much information there, and I've played with it and send people to it constantly. Because I don't know where I can't really say where anyone came from. I don't know what the influences are. What I'm looking at is the fact that in family systems, in schools, in real world time, they have very distinct personalities, and they have purposes. And so I've been sort of helping the parents understand how to cause no harm, less harm to an already challenging situation. And I like that parents can go and find out maybe what some of these galactic skill sets might be and how to find them. It's fabulous.
Yes,
Julie.
and this is where I love sending people your way, because you offer this much needed wisdom skills, experience that can help parents navigate this completely different frequency of consciousness, and realizing that we are here to learn from them, not the other way around, right?
Right.
So is there anything that you would like to share when you reflect on some of the parents that actually brought their guard down and their need to control down? Like, what is it that helps them kind of have that click realization and surrender? Is there anything that you would like to share in terms of your work with parents who may have been stubborn at first?
Stubbornness is a really good way to put it. It's more that it hits a fear level that I'm talking a language that they have no experience understanding. Yet if we're dealing with an indigo, and indigo is a warrior of truth and justice, right? And we still have indigos are still being born, because they are always going to be the sort of guards and protectors and warriors on our planet. It means, as a parent, that when you have a child that has indigo energy, that you have to have a relationship with truth. You have to know, you have to be impeccable with your word. You have to be, actions and words have to align, and you have to take ownership when something doesn't work. So getting a parent who's stubbornly in a battle where there was yelling, or there was throwing things and slamming doors, to have the parent come in and say to the teen, I just realized that I lost it. And I went to a higher octave. I went to an angry defensive place faster than I have in a long time. And I just realized that. So I don't know what that means yet. I just realized that I am accelerating in my frustration, and I need to do something about that. That alone will change everything in the relationship. Moving to the crystal, because they are water, because think sonar, because they have these cellular abilities to sort of feel and work with energy all the time. As a parent, this has been the hardest part of our culture, is we have to be responsible for the vibration of our body, the vibration of our field. So when we have a parent who's anxious, worried, helicoptering. I've done 3 series on helicoptering, and I just did this one on people pleasing. Is what happens when it's not working, and we're doing this, and we're trying to shape our kids' direction towards school, or give them advice, or even sit down and have a nice family, a nice meal, or a cup of coffee with them, and we're doing this the whole time because our field isn't calm. So we have to be responsible for our vibrational field, which means we need to know how to calm it down. We need to know how to bring it to a peaceful level, and how to interconnect with your child at that level. If you're rushing through a bedtime story, and crystals are still coming and will continue to come. So if you're rushing through a bedtime story, or you're eating, but you're on your phone, or you're having an angry conversation with someone from work, they're in pain the whole time, because your vibration puts a toxic agitation into them. And you'll find that crystals are the first ones to be like, if you would just, then I could. because there's no language to say, hey, your field is driving me flipping crazy. So what we do, again, as parents, is go, I have a girlfriend who said, I had absolutely no idea that I was anxious, and that my anxiety comes from some fears that I have to start working on.
If I just may very briefly, just thinking about one of my husband's clients. So he's a Reiki healer, and there was a family who booked session for all of them because their newborn was constantly crying. Mm-hmm. And when they shared the story, they lived with a person who was angry man who was abusive and not willing to take responsibility. And he was causing pain and misery to the rest of the family members who were afraid to speak up and do anything to change the situation. So the newborn actually was channeling all the pain through the cries day and night.
Exactly.
Mm.
And the term that was given to me for the crystal is that they will desecrate. They will literally and not even know who they are, where their edges are, if there's too much stress, too much agitation, too much invisible fighting in the family system. And so the vibration of the house, the vibration of the homework station, the vibration of the food, the vibration of everything has to be complementary to the child, which is an enormous undertaking to realize not only does he or she bump around a lot, but I have to manage myself so that I can show them what a safe haven is. It makes parenting, it brings parenting to such a magnificent level that we haven't taken the energetic responsibility for up until now.
Most sacred mission for sure.
With the rainbows, they're going to have this ability to put compassion because they're blenders, so rainbows have friends that are 10 years old, younger than them, and 50 years older.
We're talking born between 2002 and 2007, just for the reference of the listeners.
Yeah, just that little 5-year bridgers, right? They're fully dimensional. So you're going to have to hold balance and not lean towards like, I'm a this political party and I don't like those, or I do this, because you have to hold balance, which is both and. And so as a parent, you're always doing both and, which is you go to school and this is what you have, or you cannot go to school and this is what you have. It's your decision, because you have to hold respect that they actually will choose something that is in the middle as well, that holds both. So respect happens. And when you don't give them respect, they go into disarray. They fractionalize into segments of themselves, and they have a really hard time bringing themselves together. So we have to be sort of nonpartisan. We have to be compassionate and open towards everything that can split us and take us into two directions. And then I want to focus on the diamonds, because
2008 and beyond.
2008 and beyond. So diamonds we couldn't hold diamond energy on this planet for millennia.
I bet.
It's an electron energy that is so pure. It's called the Ein Sof, which is all that is, the one light. And so I look at that as the Aquarian age, or the age of light that we're going into, the ascension that we can hold, is that every time we allow more light into our system, it makes it easier for the diamonds to stay on our planet and to hold. So up until 2008, even 2005, 2000, 1990, there was no possibility of holding that high of a frequency, which was why these kids have been upgrading frequencies and holding with very important tasks, right? It is it's a radiating vibration of unconditional love, which means whoever you are, I can love you simply because your energy is magnificent.
May I just interrupt there, that I didn't mention this generation having conjunction to Fomalhaut, which is the fourth real start, which I haven't mentioned. And anyone from my experience as adults who had any of the planets conjuncting Fomalhaut, they had the profound connection to Christ consciousness or Buddhic consciousness of unity, compassion, that is incredibly healing, and who are exactly what you're describing. So them having their Neptune conjuncting this incredibly powerful transformational collective consciousness of the ascension and unity and self-mastery, like it's so profound.
And I've always called them the little Buddhists. And to me, I can I'm in across the grocery store, because they will, of all things, find me. So I'll go to the grocery store and there's a little guy and he's holding on to the thing and he's wobbling, and I look over and he goes, and his eyes get really big. Most of them have blue eyes, the color of your shirt, and you just sink into them and you go, and telepathically I go, well, hello there. And that baby, that toddler will go,
I'm seen.
I'm seen.
in my truth.
And I call them the little Buddhas. And they just can't be penetrated. That's the thing that's so interesting. They're just not going to take on anything that is darker than that light will go away. It is aggravating to be in a negative environment or have parents that aren't managing themselves well. Yet I think the most important thing is that there's no attachment to this staying on holding this light on the earth, because they're simply here to radiate. And until it becomes too hard to radiate, they will leave. And they have no attachment to staying. So, these were our crib deaths. These were the things that, like I was pregnant, then I wasn't. I was pregnant, then I had a still. I've had 4 miscarriages, like these are when these diamonds are like, yeah, not ready yet. Mom's not ready, dad's not ready, or the environment isn't ready. And so I think we have to be prepared for the fact that anyone born 2008 forward may choose to leave us at any time, because they just had to shine for a little while. So there's no attachment to staying. The other 3 have firm attachments to staying and holding and bringing this earth onto it. These guys are just going to come down and go blink, and then they might leave.
I feel like they're ascended masters who've lived it already several times, ascended several times, and they really just, like you said, I had so many goosebumps as you were saying all those things. So amazing. Thank you for sharing all of it.
Yeah. So no pressure on the parents at all. It's kind of like you have to understand unconditional love. You have to radiate. And so when I go around my granddaughter, who's, I've probably met 3 babies like that in this Montana area. And my granddaughter will just radiate so big. And then what I've learned to do is to just radiate. I open Kether, I open my tree, and I just radiate my entire tree on with her. And then she just gets all giggly and we play.
Love that.
Because light is the most important thing to them. They play with light. So it's just like bouncing little sparkle lights back and forth. That's how they want to play.
I love that. And so it's interesting to see then that indigo parents were able to bring in crystal children, and then crystal bring in rainbow, and so on. And I presume that indigos can also bring in rainbow, and indigos can also bring in diamond, right? We have many indigos who have evolved so rapidly, made such quantum leaps within our own consciousness within the last decade, right? And therefore they're able to hold frequency for diamonds.
Well, and again, we are just looking at an ongoing population of indigos, and the younger indigos, the ones that are 20 years old or 15 years old, their relationship with truth is much different than the 1970s Gen Xer who is like, oh, hell no, I got an alcoholic mom, I got an alcoholic dad, I can't find food. That's not the scenario. So their truth is going to be much more refined as we as a culture, we as a world start to unveil. Let's just go to the galactic interaction and normalize that. The idea that will be normalized at some time in our lifetime is profound, and what the impact is, and who can hold that, and who's training it, and who's compassionately working with it. This is, when we look at this frequency, it's all about opening up so that this light is possible at all times.
I'm wondering now if that kind of was initiated with the kids that had Galactic Center conjuncting either their Neptune or Pluto, and they were actually we must have had a huge amount of newborn babies who were anchoring the Galactic Center frequency here. And as a result, now we are able to open up and expand our consciousness to just be very inclusive, and everyone is equally valuable. We're just all one big galactic family, right?
We are a huge galactic family, and you and I have talked we've talked before, but briefly now about the indigos. They're a class of their own. They're warriors. They're protectors. They're the ones who guard the gates. They're not the ones who do the politics inside. They're not the builders. So the builders are those who come through the Galactic Center. They're the ones who have new constructs of what is possible now that the grids of our Earth are opening up and we can interact and not be under an enslavement process, which is what the indigos were able to do. So indigos have been dismantling institutions. They've been dismantling the grids. They've been dismantling the untruths. They've been, and their job is simply to stand and hold and to dismantle. So from 1989, 1990 forward, all of that Galactic Center influence is going to bring in new technologies, new downloads of what is possible on levels of creativity that we have never been able to embody at this time on our Earth.
Absolutely. So much more to look forward to, and so many new changes yet to come. I've mentioned this a few times before, but in past life regression hypnosis or just regression hypnosis during group events, we would playfully regress into future. And you can choose 100, 200, or 300 years from now. And whenever I facilitated this for a group, either 100, 200, or 300 years from now, they also global peace on Earth and immense technology that was supporting well-being of the human body and the Earth herself, and beautiful, loving, supportive communities, people living in harmony with nature in a smaller communities, and just this beautiful vision of, you know, where we are heading, kind of returning to what's healthy for our body and for nature. And I think it's only possible if we go through this difficult dismantling process of.
We have to break out. We have freedom, and until we realize that we have something to break out from, you know, I think that's been the challenge for me in my coaching, me in the family system work, even just continually putting videos out there, presenting different abilities to see things from different perspectives. That it's how do you get someone to realize that they're in a cage and there's a whole lot of freedom outside on the other side. You know, this is my favorite. I brought this one out because I love it. This is the Osho Zen 5 of Discs card. And, you know, if you look at this, the brown cement always is a mental construct. Same with metal on the gates. And you have this innocent child looking at all of the rainbows that are out there and going, I want to be out there. And the beautiful part is that if you really look closely, the lock is unlocked. And that the child has the freedom, as soon as we let them, to unlock that and go out on their own. So it's sort of like we already have it. We just have to unlock it and step out. And and our children are showing us how to do it. So I always use it from parenting forward, which is, how do I stop doing who I am and let my kid teach me what they know how to do, and I go forward with them?
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that one too. Denise, can you tell us a little bit about your work? First of all, I want to shout out and kind of remind everyone to go and visit your YouTube channel, because the videos that you share and the conversations that you have in the videos, there's such a high vibe. Like whichever one I choose to watch, I have goosebumps. So they're really valuable and very, joyfully presented. It's not stern and rigid like the old ways. It's really enjoyable to watch your content. And then when people go to your website, denisedryden.com, there is a consultation tab, and you offer different types of services.
Yeah. I'm a coach. I really love one-on-one work, and I work in 6-week segments with somebody. Sometimes we do 2 6-week. Sometimes if it's really big, we do 3 6-week segments, but that's it. You know, we when you're working with energy, it's just bringing it to the surface, acknowledging it, realizing that we can shape it into whatever form it needs to be transformed in, and then start anew. And so the coaching is always, to me, my favorite, and I will always have hours set aside per week for one-on-one coaching. That's the thing I love the most. The videos I do just to keep myself entertained and to talk about, like, for 6.5 years now, every week by about Wednesday I go.
Cool.
going on out there? What do we want to put out? What do I want to put out as far as what's timely and what we can do to sort of shift energy? This last one I just did was the energy of people pleasing and where it comes from. And it was fascinating to watch what comes in when I start to do
So
this.
timely.
So if you go to my website, there's skills, there's the basic skills of stability and adaptability or self-knowledge, right? And then there's also, how do I apply this towards parenting? And each one of those takes you into its own little package with me. And you can find that. The other thing is I love to talk, and I love to talk about this and explore it. And if you haven't purchased the book, any of you watching it, the reason I want to pump this book for one reason is that I had an interview with Tara, who runs A Mother's Intuition, and she said it is a dictionary of energetic terms. Like, how do you, what's your pineal gland? What are your chakras? What's a tree of life? What are your clairs? And so it ends up being a basic handbook, so you can sort of understand, oh, if I'm talking about telepathic, she talks about that in there, right? And so that's a core foundation book, so that helps too.
Beautifully presented. That's perfect. And is there any final message that you would have for our listeners?
I would invite each of us to smile more, to hold the light more, and make it easier on these children. So if we really put it all together, if we learn truth, if we learn how to be responsible with our field and play with it and catch it and not be so hard on ourselves. Oh yeah, I was over in the doldrums there. Now I got to get back up, right? And to hold it in balance and openness and compassion, and then just shine that light. Watch who steps forward in your life. To me, that's been the most fun in the last 3 to 4 years, is watching when I decide to radiate, who kind of puts their head up in the coffee shop or wherever I am and goes like, well, hello there. So be more playful. This is not hard stuff. This is not an enormous task. This is just an invitation towards more light.
There's so much magic in that, and I'm sure it's full of synchronicities. One objection that I imagine some might say, especially if you struggle financially, because it puts you into survival mode. One tip with that I would give, that came immediately in with that concern, is that start noticing moments where it's time for you to worry about it and do something about it, when you can actively work on it, on changing it, whatever it is. But then there are many moments in your day when there's nothing you can do about your situation. So can you give yourself permission in those moments to pretend and just try to lighten up and see how that may actually bless you and bring synchronicities that you wouldn't be able to attract otherwise or manifest otherwise if you just keep staying in that grot. So watch for those.
Depending on how old we are, many of us learned that you can drudge up, let's just say, an old bad relationship. Let's just, whether it doesn't money, anything, job, you can bring it up and you can like harness a bunch of energy and you can push on it and it'll enlighten, it'll like liven you up. It'll give you something, but it's aimed at something that you have a hurt or an anger or an opinion about. And that's what our children are trying to say, is that find a different way, because those old ways are just destructive. So it's sort of like, so I like that. Don't work on focus when you have time to work on it, and become very conscious of where you are getting your energy, where you are building what you think is light, which is really just a flare of fire energy, not necessarily light.
Absolutely. My final word would be, there's order in this chaos, or seeming chaos, and there's divine orchestration of epic proportions. So
always,
you're in this together.
Thank you so much. This has been fantastic.
Thank you. Much love, everyone. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.